Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Conaway, for 5 minutes.
Governor, thank you for being here. You've testified that you weren't an expert in all aspects of any business, and no one really is. But help us understand your appreciation for the duty that FCMs have to maintain segregated accounts. Now, is that something that you were aware of?
Yes, sir.
And fully was there somebody in your organization that when the report was prepared the next morning after yesterday's close of business and that was out of whack, their job was to come hunt you down and show that to you? Did the issue of segregated funds rise to that level in your mind?
If there were an outage,
right,
it would be brought up, an exception.
Right. And
not on the.
Would you be aware, would that have been something that you would have been made aware of, or is that somebody else in your organization?
If there had been an unreconciled circumstance, I believe it would have been
brought to your
raised to my attention.
All right. We're just trying to get a sense of how important MF Global's team felt segregated accounts were. We obviously think they're very important. That's the one area of this aspect that we're supposed to be paying attention to. In terms of tone from the top, many organizations take on the attitude of their leadership with respect to compliance, with respect to regulations and those kinds of things. As the Wall Street Journal reported that you actually placed orders yourself on sovereign debt, which is a totally different conversation, but in the placing of those orders, did you go through all the normal routine that anybody who has authority to place orders on behalf of MF Global would have gone through, or did you?
Congressman, I, in fact, didn't place orders, although I worked with traders who would place orders. And I went through normal routines, and we had special compliance oversight of my activities.
Okay, well, that's helpful. One of the other aspects of leading a broker-dealer and a company in the financial services business that you're in, obviously, is liquidity risk.
Absolutely.
You're not telling us that just showed up in October on your radar screen. You also had some sense that the second quarter results were not going to be as favorable as you wanted to them.
Well, we were very well aware that either at the end of that second quarter or third quarter, fiscal quarter, that the deferred tax asset is going to have to be reduced.
Okay. So you're aware that during the July, August, September timeframe that you got a $120 million hit just from the deferred tax asset, and that we don't have to worry about what that is. But the bankruptcy filing said it was really a contraction of your proprietary trading helped drive much of the loss in that second quarter. But given that you knew about the deferred tax and the potential impact, I don't want to get off of that rabbit trail. You knew that the liquidity risk faced, or MF Global faced a liquidity risk. When did you begin to put in place the steps necessary to protect MF Global from a liquidity risk? And then in October, when the wreck started happening and the furs started flying, margin calls started happening, your customers started wanting their money back, your lieutenants are coming to you saying, these are what we got to do. Did you ask them, where do we get the money to meet those calls? Where do we get those? In other words, we're short $1.2 billion. Where were your lieutenants telling you, here's how we solve the problem with respect to this liquidity or run of the bank, for a worse phrase? What were they telling you? Where were you getting the money?
We had done stress tests about securities we would be able to sell in the broker-dealer for purposes of generating free up of margin, repurchase agreements that we would be able to close that would accomplish that. But more than anything else, we had undrawn credit lines that were held in reserve for crunch time.
Why didn't that system work?
Real answer is I don't know all of the details of what. I really don't, Congressman. There are many things that were presumed to have been able to generate liquidity. For instance, did all the banks actually live up to their delivery of the cash that was supposed to be available by the line?
Yeah. Let me finish off. Back on the culture issue. When things got crazy on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, you had people in place who knew the difference between segregated funds and proprietary funds. They knew ahead of time what was right and what was wrong, and character is tested in those crucibles. Is there anything that you think you could have ever done that would have said to them that that's okay, that in this extingent circumstances, the disaster we're in, it's going to be okay to breach those? The folks that actually do it, they can't hide behind not knowing the difference. So the team you
I
had
don't
in
think
place,
anyone would interpret anything. I don't think. I don't. Not on the other side of the phone. But there was never any intent in either my language or actions.
I understand the reasons why you keep using the word intent. I'm not trying to pin you down. We're not the prosecutors in this instance. Just it, but the team failed. We've had testimony that Lehman Brothers had a catastrophic failure, and their FCM business moved the next day without a penny. I got to believe that the chaos surrounding the bankruptcy of Lehman was not dissimilar to the one that happened in MF Global. Why was the team in MF Global unable to do the right thing at the heat of the moment?
The gentleman's time has expired. The witness may respond to the question.
First of all, there is a proportionality difference. The FCM was significantly larger in total.
FCM.
Our FCM was a much bigger part of our business than theirs. That doesn't answer your question because I don't know the answer to that, and I would be speculating if I did.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Connecticut.